production phase, we managed to speak about maintenance, the whole system. So we see that renovation has big advantages, what we couldn't see when we just focus on the materials and the production of the materials. But when it comes to carbon neutrality, the most important thing in my eyes, and this is a big point in the whole life carbon and in the LCA, which is behind, that we are not looking to the real sources. And I would like to mention the forests. The LCA right now are not balancing the loss of carbon when we harvest wood, because it's complicated and because it's calculated in a different sector. It's calculated in the LULUCF sector. And I mean, there are so many scientists, climate scientists like Professor Bill Muma, who says that he was a lead author of the IPCC report and one of the Nobel Prize winners 2007, and he says it very simple. All forests sequester carbon, but they could store twice as much as they do. And this is something where the LCA says wood is always coming with a minus in the LCA. And so the LCA is blind on that sourcing point because it's complicated. The consequences are balanced in the LULUCF sector. But if political decisions are based on the whole life carbon or are based on the LCA, and we should trust in the data we have then as decision ground, this problem has to be solved.
Yeah, can I do just a quick comment? And I think that one of the learnings from the Swedish approach, now we will have limit values only on the production stage, so upfront carbon emissions. And of course, in Sweden, that might make sense since that's, say, 60-30% of the whole life cycle. But what I wanted to say is that I think it is important that we separate the production stage so that we don't get a minus, and also that we separate the biogenic carbon and report that separately. So that we don't, like you said, we don't take it for granted that we have that cycle, but we report it separately, we exclude it in the limit values, and then we can deal with that in different ways.
I want to add something. I mean, now Ida told how Sweden is taking care of this. But I still think that the argument of Sebastian is still valid.
I mean, it's not a new scientific. It's coming from the Global Carbon Project, and the Global Carbon Project is every year renewed for the COP conferences. There is always at the beginning of the COP there is one famous chart. You see that 40 gigatons of fossil emissions still going up is our biggest problem. So we have radically and fast decarbonize all our processes, especially my product cement. That's for clear. But at the same time, in this wonderful picture, you see that we have two global things. The ocean, Brother Ocean helped us now for decades, but he's starting to get acid because of all the CO2. And then with 11 gigatons, there are the global forests. And this balance, 40 minus 10 plus 11, is then 19. So 19, we are not balanced, and 19 gigatons is going every year in the atmosphere and is responsible. So very often people don't see this sink, and when the LCA doesn't see this sink and the change in the sink, because Europe, the sink is nearly gone, in Germany is gone, the sink in Austria is gone, and in Europe we lost 150 million tons in the last 15 years. The funny thing is, when we brought in the Renewable Energy Directive, and when all this biofuel rush started, at the same time the sink began to go. And so I'm very critical that we are taking probably the wrong decisions on data which shows us that everything is good. And this is what I'm worried.
Okay. I would have a follow-on question to you, Sebastian, then. Given what you just said, what does this then mean for using the resource wood?
There are now studies, brand new studies made in Austria, which found a new indicator. It's called the carbon opportunity indicator. So the scientists of 3 universities, one of the scientists is Karl-Heinz Erb, he is one of the most cited researchers in the world. They defined the indicator where you can measure the loss of this zinc via the substitution minus. And the interesting result that is really astonishing is that if there is a substitution potential between, for example, a concrete building and a wooden building, and the substitution plus for wood is, let's say, 20%. So the wooden construction has a 20% lower carbon footprint than the concrete building. This is overshadowed by 4 times when you bring in the loss of the carbon sink or this opportunity cost. So then this turns from plus 20% substitution to plus 80 in the other direction. So, and this was recently underlined by a study of the World Resources Institute, which came out last year. And this study, it's really, this study is recently started 2 weeks ago. The title is Linking the Forest Cover to Carbon Opportunity Cost and Greenhouse Gas Emission Substitution Effects of Wooden Buildings. And they are defining a new indicator, which I would say is brand new. And yeah, it's possible now. Yeah.
Gives guidance. Okay. Thank you very much. I would like